folks. Ben Gilbert here with Engadget, and we've got EA's COO, Peter Moore. And we are hot off the heels of the EA press conference at Gamescom 2013 yesterday, where you guys talked about a lot of big stuff, right? You talked about FIFA 14, really big for the European audience here, and that's coming...
and the North American audience.
It is big in North America too. I don't mean to discredit things, but
that's right.
You know, the Europeans love the
of course.
Love the soccer, or the football, rather, while we're here.
While you're here.
And showing lots of other good stuff. Saw some Titanfall, saw some Battlefield 4. I guess I'd just like to kind of get your perspective on what Gamescom means for EA, right? It's a very different show than E3. It's the biggest game show in the world.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you nailed it. It's the biggest game show in the world. 300,000 people will be coming through here. Our show floor here at Gamescom is what I believe is about 3 football fields. It is just monstrous. Having a consumer part of the show the last 2 days is very important to us. The European market in particular is incredibly important to us, particularly to your point when you have a FIFA, but also, you know, Command and Conquer is a big deal out here. So, and it's our real last beat right now this year before the launch of the new consoles from both Sony and Microsoft, so it's a very important show for us.
Well, it's interesting that you say the last beat, and I've been referring to it as that as well, and it's a shame almost because TGS is still, Tokyo Game Show is still a thing.
Yes.
And that happens in September, I believe.
That's correct.
And I think it's decreased in its importance to an extent, and I don't know if that's reflective of the Japanese development market or just maybe it's just the show has not done a great job of supporting itself as a important thing to consumers. But you guys will still have a presence there, presumably, right?
Yeah, but I think what needs to happen now is when you think about what development process is that the development teams now need to deliver games.
Sure.
And you're at that point now where most of the games are going ready to be in beta, particularly the launch titles. At TGS in late September, if you need to deliver new content, becomes a distraction. And it's not that it's in Tokyo, it's not that it's the Japanese market, it's just one more beat that gets in the way of delivering a world-class game.
Absolutely.
So this is where the teams lock down and now deliver against what looks like a November launch for both platforms. And so from that perspective, you know, this is where we're at. We showed new content. You saw new content from Titanfall. You saw new content from FIFA. You saw new content from Battlefield. But now those teams, okay, let's go make the sausages now.
Yeah,
and that's where we're at.
And so another big theme I'm seeing this year is something really interesting that a lot of games, I think that we've been talking about this across the past couple of years, is games turning more into services. And we've seen a lot of that, especially with these new consoles, where they're able to do these more persistent worlds, have a bigger tie-in with your kind of world outside of just playing a game on a console. And stuff like Titanfall and Need for Speed Rivals, or for that matter, Command and Conquer, are really great examples of stuff like that. And I guess I'd love to hear your perspective on where we see that stuff going down the road, right? Does that still make sense to release a game every year for a franchise when there's, you know, if it's a service, does it make sense for there to be an annual?
Well, it depends. And you know, we look at titles like FIFA and Battlefield, to your point, which start to feel more, the service thing is weird. It's less about being a service, more about fresh content all the time.
Sure.
You've invested in a client called a disc in most instances, and in the old days, that would be it. We would go, fine, dev team goes to the beach for 2 weeks and then let's go make the next one for next year. No, I mean, so much of our development teams now are live operations guys that are constantly developing post-release content for consumers. Battlefield Premium has been a runaway success. FIFA Ultimate Team is the gold standard for what keeps gamers looking at getting even more value out of their purchase for their game itself, for the client that you've bought. And you know, from that perspective now, yeah, they are living, breathing organisms that go on until we're ready to deliver the next big client, which refreshes the experience and we start all over again. This is no longer launch and leave or fire and forget. This is about delivering content and experiences 365 days a year. And
so in that respect, it seems like there needs to be some sort of evolution of the way that people buy their games then, right? As you say, there's not necessarily just this, I'm buying a game and that's the thing that I'm playing and it's static. It's even something you're buying digitally and maybe you don't ever have a disc and maybe it just lives on your box and it's a service in the background, right?
And we're seeing more and more of that at the other end of the spectrum with free-to-play, in which you're looking at games where you, FIFA and Battlefield, just talking about, both have free-to-play options depending where you are in the world, depending on what platform, and it's a different experience, but the ability for you to be able to interact with those franchises on a free-to-play basis is got to be part and parcel of every major franchise we do now, and that's very important to Electronic Arts to be able to bring more consumers into our world of of FIFA and Battlefield as the two that I think point out what we can do on a 24-hour basis,
Sure.
regardless of how much money you got in your wallet, how much time you have to spend, what device you're playing on, where you are in the world.
And in Titanfall, also, speaking directly to Titanfall, it's a game created by the folks who previously created the Call of Duty series, a hugely popular franchise, and something that has become somewhat of a service unto itself. It's an annualized game, but it's still something where there's a huge, persistent player base that's moving from game to game.
Sure.
And Titanfall seemingly is aiming to do something along those lines, maybe not on an annualized basis, but it's coming out, and the campaign and the multiplayer, there isn't the same delineation that we've seen in the past, right? It's kind of tied together. And I guess I'd love to hear why you folks chose to do something like that. I mean, maybe this is a question directly for Respawn, but
You're exactly right.
yeah.
That is a question for Vince and the Respawn team, and one of the more talented groups. You saw what they delivered yesterday was spectacular. I love the freshness of the game mechanic. You've got one of the more talented development heads in Vince Zampella, certainly from a track record perspective.
Absolutely.
We believed in him. We've been there with the get-go with Respawn Entertainment. We're excited about this title. It's more of a question for him, because it's not for me to say what's inside their heads of why they see this as
Sure.
the future.
Sure.
So it's more of a question for Vince and the team. But we're seeing more and more of the online experience being part and parcel of what every game. We don't ship a game at EA that is offline. Just
Right.
doesn't happen. And gamers either want to be connected so that your stats and your achievements and whatever you do certainly reflect who you are, or you want the full multiplayer experience on top of that. So we don't deliver offline experiences anymore.
So speaking to that specifically, EA's made a big push in that respect with Origin, right? Across all these platforms, where that's been something that ties together your history in EA's games across various platforms.
That's correct.
And it's been something that's been somewhat contentious at the same time, right? There's been some blowback from consumers on certain particulars, right? I don't think it's been received poorly. You guys are clearly still supporting it, and it's still doing well. But at the same time, there's been some kinks to work out as things go on. And I guess, what do you see as the future of stuff like that, of Origin? More integration maybe into the consoles, where it's part and parcel of your gamer tag?
Could be. I mean, we use Origin as a base layer for doing exactly what you talk about. As we move more and more interacting with millions of customers every single month, it's important that we can see what they're doing to help them. So customer service reports to me. Origin becomes a very important part of your record. I know what you're playing. I can go in, I can look, I can help you. You're missing something, or somebody's gone in and done something to your account or something. That becomes very important to us. So it's not just about commercially transacting with you, it's about the customer service layer, and it's also about the community layer. Origin's only 2.5 years old.
Sure.
And it will continue to evolve over the years. It's going to be a very important portal to us, between us and our consumer, and we're going to continue to invest. I think it's going to be one of the better things we ever did as a company.
Yeah, so something we've seen this year, asking specifically about Origin, the Shield, the Nvidia Shield. It's a very interesting device to us, and it's something that it's kind of out of nowhere, right? It's a very different device. It's from a company that traditionally makes, pieces that go inside of your computer rather than things that you hold in your hand.
True.
And it's something that Steam has jumped full in on with the integration for streaming gaming on there. Is that something that you guys are interested in working with?
We look at every platform. We look at the viability of the platforms. We look at the install base. We look at where the consumer is going and the interest. And then as we see platforms develop and consumers say, this is something that I'm really enjoying, then we're EA. We jump in and we try and provide experiences for that. Right now we're focused on, so here's our focus. We're focused on next gen.
Yep.
Sony and Microsoft this holiday, our teams are focused on nailing that transition and making sure we deliver the best experiences. Excuse me. And then mobile comes right after that. The mobile platforms around the world, iOS and Android, and Shield's a little bit of an offshoot of that, but iOS and Android are important to us, and getting our games on devices that billions of consumers are carrying around now is important. Free-to-play probably comes after that on PCs, and we're seeing a lot of success with our core franchises in countries where the free-to-play market is pretty much all they do. You watch Shield, and you're looking at the Ouya and the other devices that I don't mean to disrespect, but kind of sit on the periphery of that.
I think that's fair.
And you watch it, and as things develop, you're tempted to jump in and do. But right now, no plans to get involved there right now.
Okay.
Got plenty on our plate.
Of course. And I'd be remiss if, in that same vein, we didn't ask about Oculus, the
Yes.
Oculus Rift.
Yes.
It's something that I'm personally a huge fan of. I think it's incredibly interesting and innovative, and it's something that we've seen a lot of smaller guys jump in on, the indies, and there's been some,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a dev kit, right? It's not a
Yep.
consumer product
Yeah.
yet. But is it something that you've tried? Is it something EA is interested in?
I tried to get over there during E3 when the real buzz started, and I was unable to do it. I've seen enough photographs of people, and I've read enough video. I've seen enough video of what which is not easy to capture the video on Oculus Rift, but it is. I think I figured it out. Again, I think it probably sits in the same category as the Shield. You watch it with interest. And if that's not an easy business, a peripheral
That's for
business.
sure.
But we keep a close eye on that, and as that business develops, we'll watch for it.
Okay, all right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience at home from Gamescom 2013? And
No,
EA's future?
I just think if you haven't watched the press conference, it's on ea.com/Gamescom. It's a lot of fun, as we always do with our press conferences. We get the crowd warmed up, and we deliver an hour or an hour and a bit in this particular case. We're very focused on the games brought to you by the people who make them. So if you haven't seen Titanfall, you haven't seen the latest of Battlefield 4, you haven't seen the latest of FIFA, if you love the games like Command & Conquer, and we lead off with The Sims 4, if you like PopCap, then PvZ2, Garden Warfare, and Peggle 2.
Peggle 2!
Absolutely. There's a bunch of stuff, and there's something for everyone in there. It's 70 minutes of your life. You can sit and watch it stream. It's ready to go.
Does it include your pre-show banter?
It does not include my pre-show banter.
Maybe don't watch it. I don't know.
No, you don't want that. But it is certainly the net result of a very talented group of people around the world that make great games for people. So if you haven't seen it, again, 70 minutes press conference. I think it gives you a good lead into what the holiday is going to look like.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Peter.
All right, Ben. Thank you.